one you should choose. Thank you. So if anyone's interested in the grammar of Bantu language, then I have 6 copies here.
Yeah, and Eva-Maria has spent, I guess, some time in Tanzania.
Yes.
Exactly how long, I don't know.
I've been there many times.
Many times?
Yeah, but not that long at the same time, so maybe 2 months every time or 6 weeks and so on.
Yeah, but going back a long time, like going back to 2005 or earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in total my fieldwork is half a year. I counted once, added up number of weeks.
Yeah, and she's been working on one of the many small languages on this planet. And you heard last year, maybe, when we had some people here from Nepal, about some other work in another area of the world. And now you will get another glimpse of work on it. But this language, Ndengeleko, I have to get into it, is not as small as the one we were treating last time. So you maybe remember it, and we said the estimated number of speakers for Lohorong is between 4 and 10,000, so it's somewhat smaller.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think I'm one of the believers in the force of language on thought, so I always think it's very important for people who are in cognitive science and communication and so on, and that's what most of us are. You know, they're not, most people who are not at all trained linguists, remember that? So when you say aspirated, they're on this. Okay. Anyway, it's good for us to make some connection with this kind of research, so it will be very interesting. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll give some more background on the language as well, because as you said, it's not that small, because my own estimation is around 72,000 speakers in two districts of Tanzania. This is the eastern coast of Tanzania. I mean, you can see it on this small map here, it's Tanzania, Kenya, and so. And the Dar es Salaam is here, so when you go south along the coast, you find Ndengeleko around a very large river called Rufiji, and in this delta called the Rufiji Delta. So this is the Indian Ocean here. So it's not a very remote area, and there are still quite a number of speakers, but the area is very multilingual, and the coast of Tanzania in general has for long been settled by people of different origins, and all of the Ndengeleko speakers, they are also fluent in Swahili, and they seem to have had Swahili as a second language since a very long time. So they are bilingual. And there are other languages spoken in this region as well. But in more recent years, then the dominance of Swahili is growing, and more children are going to school, which is a very good thing. But all their peers speak Swahili, and in school you speak Swahili, you're not allowed to speak anything else. So, in fact, I have still not met a child that speaks Ndengeleko. So that's why I think you can still treat this language, with equal interest as Lohorong, which is very small, and maybe it might be a stronger language than Ndengeleko even, because most people do not seem very interested in maintaining the use of this language.
How many official languages does Tanzania have?
2.
2?
English and Swahili.
Yeah.
There are about 120, 150 languages in Tanzania. Yeah. And there's no domain of use for these languages except the home domain. And maybe in the market sometimes. And there are some bigger languages, there's some very big languages which have millions of speakers, and maybe volunteers or churches, and they have radio programs, but there's no support for that from governments, and they are definitely not allowed in education, these languages.
So what's the relation between English and Swahili? Do they compete, or do they have different domains too?
I would say they compete in a sense, in the way that the elite speaks English and other people do not. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, Swahili is, the use of Swahili is very extensive. I mean, they speak Swahili in parliament, radio, TV, everywhere. But English is still the #1 status language.
University education, which one?
Secondary school education.
But which language is university?
English. But you start with English when when you enter secondary school. So in primary school you have Swahili throughout, and English is taught as a subject, but it's not. I mean, the kids who, and the ones who enter secondary school, they really do not know English very much. In the area where I do my research as well, not at all. And the teachers are also, they don't speak English really. So it's a problem in Tanzania in the education system. And I think the problem extends even to the university. For those who have not attended an elite school where they've learned English very well, it's a big problem to get further education because of problems with the English. So, yeah. Let alone, I mean, all these other languages that we're talking about now, they are really out of the picture completely. So, and as I said, there are some languages which are very big, like Sukuma has maybe 5 million speakers, something like that. And it's not allowed at all in education. So.
Is that the biggest native language, Sukuma?
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But there are other big ones.
Is that also Bantu language?
Yeah. All big languages in Tanzania are Bantu languages.
Okay.
Though there are Nilotic languages and Cushitic languages and maybe even Khoisan languages.
Khoisan?
Well, it's debated. There's the Hadza language and the Sandawe language. They are not, or they are isolates, or they have cliques. So that's why people think but they haven't really found a strong relationship with the other South African Khoisan language. So Tanzania is the only country in Africa with a representative from all the big 4, language of Greenberg. If they still hold. But this is where Ndengeleko is spoken, and this is the situation of the language. And because of this, Ndengeleko had not been studied before, so I did a quite extensive social linguistics survey to find out more about where it is spoken and by how many speakers. I tried to make an estimation, a calculation, and I went around in schools in the whole area and used a questionnaire in schools with the kids and so on. So
another question: is Tanzania larger or smaller than Sweden?
Square kilometers?
Yeah.
Good question.
Just
I think it should be quite equal in size, or slightly larger maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's not. I mean, it's square, so it's difficult. Sweden is.
Yeah. Tanzania is larger.
It should be larger, right? Yeah.
Slightly larger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how large an area of Tanzania is this?
Yeah. I have that somewhere.
In the top left, right? The corner.
Yeah, you can see it a little bit on the screen.
Okay, so it's not a very big area actually.
No, I mean, you
But
just. No, it's not that big. I mean, you travel from here to here on a very bad road, and that still only takes 3-4 hours. So it's not that huge.
I checked it out. Tanzania's square mileage is actually twice the size of Sweden.
Ooh.
I mean, it's close to the equator, so I mean, maps.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you still keep
It's
this
quite a
old
big country
image
with
of it.
European measures.
Thank you. Yeah, that's.
And how, I didn't hear it from the beginning, did you say how many people in total? The population?
Population of Tanzania? No, I don't remember.
Population.
50 million? Not that much. 30,
45.
35.
45.
45. Oh, 45 million. Yeah. So Ndengeleko is a fairly typical Bantu language. So we'll soon see more about the structure of the language. For this,
Is Swahili also a Bantu language?
yes, and it's another group of Bantu languages, but it's, I mean, it's related and not very closely related, but clearly related.
And Swahili is one of the larger language communities
Yes.
in Africa as well, if we compare to other.
Yeah, but Swahili is spoken, it's a lingua franca, so it's spoken second language by very few people. So I think the total, that's 50 million, maybe they said, the total amount of Swahili. That should be more than it. So if Tanzania has 45 million inhabitants.
Tanzania everyone speaks Swahili.
But doesn't
It's segmented that way.
what's the percentage of people speaking Swahili in Tanzania? It should be 95%.
Around 80.
80? Oh, wow. I thought it would be more.
No,
Yeah.
it's exaggeration.
Okay. All right. So 55 million speakers in the world of Swahili, or maybe more. But it's a very big language. And, but the Swahili ethnic community is not that big.
I see.
In that sense, Swahili is a minority language, they normally say, because it's not spoken as a first language.
So where is the ethnic community, the first language community?
It's spread along the coast of Tanzania, Kenya, and I mean, so in from Pate and Lamu in the north of Kenya, there have been settlements of Swahili groups, Zanzibar, Pemba. But of course, nowadays, a lot of kids learn Swahili as a first language. They don't speak any other language, so they speak their parents' language just in a limited way. So it's clearly growing. So there were no written sources for this study. So all my work is based on field work. And I have collected a lot of stories and other kinds of material, but mostly this is based on elicitation, on interviews with speakers, because to be able to get the different structures of the language in a limited time, then you have to do a lot of interviews. Just to give you a sense of what it sounds like, I'd like to play a short piece of what this woman is saying.
That's maximum.
Okay. Try again.
Wampuka manaliyo mule kupulwa nondopeta manaliyo kupeta itola kiteleko nimekapakiliza nondokalanga.
Well, that's a little bit just to give an idea of what it sounds like. So in the beginning of field work, it's difficult to just start with a story like this and you don't understand anything of what the person is saying. So you really have to start with asking, how do you say book, how do you say read, how do you say, and then build your knowledge from there. So it takes quite a lot of time.
But you speak Swahili yourself?
Yes.
So you use Swahili when you...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I use Swahili as my working language. And there are very, very, very few people who speak English. And this lady to the left, she's an English teacher and she speaks English. So sometimes she's also been helping me in understanding understanding Ndengeleko. But I haven't been able to find a lot of speakers. Because sometimes it's also good to use English, as English is not a Bantu language, to try to avoid interference from Swahili. Because as they are so able in both languages, I mean, it's easy for them to code switch and use Swahili instead. So a very brief introduction. So this is, we call this P11. The Bantu languages are numerous. I mean, there are, how many, Laura? 600?
Yeah, 500, 600 something.
Yeah, Bantu languages. Which is actually, I mean, if we have 6,000-7,000 languages in the world, then this is a tenth of the world's languages are Bantu languages. Yeah. And they are divided in geographical zones. You know, by this work was done in the beginning of the 20th century by someone. So since then we use letters and numbers to. So when we are in a Bantu conference, everyone talks about N11 and S41 and so on. And Ndengeleko, this language has a very limited set of phonemes actually. They have 12 consonants and 7 vowels, which is not that much. But they have very complex morphophonological, they have complex morphophonological processes, which makes it, which makes the morphemes glue together, so to speak, and assimilate to each other. So the biggest part of my thesis is actually phonology. I've worked a lot on the phonology. So the structure of a verb. This is This is what it says. We are throwing a set them, and this is the verb. But the verb root is here, and to throw at someone is expressed in this language with an extension to the verb root. And then the first person subject marker comes first, and then this is present disjoint. I will come back to that. And then the morphemes follow each other in this way in a fixed slot system, actually. But then, well, this glides to w, and then there's lengthening here, and I have this sound file as well. Yeah, and only this a is this says this is noun class 2, which is the plural, you know, for humans in this language. I'll also come back to that later. So it's actually at them, the third person plural equals the noun class 2.
I have a very strange question. No, because I'm not a linguist.
No, that's fine.
How do you know how you should spell these words?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a very good question. I don't have a right written language.
Yeah. So the thing is, I use when I use. First of all, when I transcribe, I will use the International Phonetic Alphabet to have a kind of transcription system for linguists, where the sounds are written the same way, regardless of language. But then, once you find out what the phonemes are, I mean, which sounds are really important in this language, then you can abstract from that. And in doing so, I used the letters that people are used to from Swahili. So this y for a glide is not the right symbol according to the International Phonetic Alphabet, but that's what they are used to from Swahili. So this makes it also readable for them. The only thing, Swahili only has 5 vowels, so I'm using IPA for the other vowels that Swahili doesn't have. Otherwise, there's no important difference. So this makes it possible for me to use that orthography also.
But what's you've written 2 when you have the morpheme analysis, but in the orthography you have W?
Sorry.
On the line above you have TW, but below
Here.
you have TU.
Yes. Yeah, that's glide formation, so tu plus anda becomes tuanda.
But what is your suggestion for an orthography for this language? Are you using W or U in your orthography?
Well, I don't have an orthography because an orthography is a officially established writing system.
Right, but you don't have a suggestion for that?
No, I didn't suggest anything. I use this for my thesis, and then if they would like to have a writing system for the language, they can go on, of course, with discussions on how they would like to write their language. But the U here, I mean, because it desyllabifies, it's not too anda. So that's why I decided to write twanda. And
but the space is significant here. So you're saying that this word, which in English is 6 words, in this language is only 2 words. This phrase.
Yeah. These are the pebbles, the small stones.
Yeah.
We are throwing at them. This kind of locative.
Here's one of the reasons for why frequency counts of words are extremely difficult across languages. Because they don't make sense always.
Yeah.
But the parts you have broken out here, two, for example.
Oh, you mean these morphemes?
Yeah, it's the only morpheme. Are they not recurring with the same content in other constructions, one-word constructions? So
Yes.
that they are half words in a sense?
Aha, okay.
That's a question. It sounded like a statement. It was a question.
Yeah. You mean that I could decide to write twanda qualikelia? To write it as 2 words?
You have to translate my question.
But it's premised on the wrong premise.
Yeah,
The fact that morphemes recur in other words does not make them words.
No, but the question was whether they also preserved some sense which made them more word-like.
That's the definition of morpheme. Minimal meaning bearing union.
Yeah, minimum, but very minimal. But if you had the same morpheme, it always meant dog, for example, but combined with other things, it meant
That's a definition
dog
of a
eating and
morpheme.
dog
But that's
blah,
just a definition of a morpheme, is you have a consistent form.
Okay, I give up.
Consistent meaning. Yeah, you should give up. Yeah.
Think about it, you can go back.
Yeah, I could rephrase it.
Yeah. And just to illustrate maybe the morphology. So this is the noun class 1 object marker mu, him or her. When this is the verb root for bites. But what happens with all of these little morphemes is that the u is lost, and it gets the same place of articulation as the next consonant, and then this next consonant becomes the same nasal, and that's why you have atekunuma, a long N there. So this is what I mean with these processes that I've been describing in my thesis, which are a bit complex. So it's actually luba, which is the verb, to bite, but it surfaces as numa here.
Do they phonemically distinguish N, L, R in this language?
N and L, yes.
And then L, then, yeah. So it's
Not
like
R.
this language.
Not R, but they have. I mean, they just N. I mean, the nasals are clearly distinguished. They use the nasals a lot in this language, and also combinations of nasal and consonant.
Right.
Yeah. So, just as another illustration, it's adapted from Loris, and just to show you how the verb word is built up. But I think I have to go back and forth because I was talking about this root. This is the root with the lexical meaning throw, and the lexical meaning bites, and these roots can have an extension which is more or less lexicalized or fossilized morpheme suffix. So these two together form the verbal base with the meaning. So here, these two together mean throw at, not only throw, but throw at. And then because of the syllable structure of the language, they always have to be followed by a final vowel, which also carries meaning, so we call it here an inflectional final suffix. And those two together form the stem. And the stem is the minimal form that you can use because it's the imperative. So you can say luma, means bite. If you so this part here is the stem, but can only be used as an imperative. Everything else that you need to express comes, you have all the morphemes preceding this verb stem.
But that's in general typical of all Bantu languages.
Yeah.
Right? That they are extremely prefixing. That you add things going from left to right.
Yeah.
No, sorry, from right to left.
Yeah, Ndengeleko also has suffixes, but if you like, you can all call them, like inflectional final suffix. And the object marker is the morpheme that precedes the verb stem immediately. So together with something called this macrostem, and then we have all the inflection in front. So that's how the verb word is structured. Now,
so did you have a plural in that word?
In which word?
In the pebbles or whatever it was?
Yes, this is the noun class 6, makando. One is likando.
Okay, so
Makando.
the plural comes before the noun, just for the non-linguists here, that's unusual, right? Usually you have boys, yes, coming out. So here it would be a sport.
Yeah, we have a lot of prefixes.
Is the plural S of so many languages, has that the same root? I mean, in all these languages that use S, is it a common ancestry for that S?
You mean in Indo-European languages?
Yeah. So has that been there for a very long time?
I know of nothing that contradicts that idea. It could be.
But how many languages have that?
Yeah, I was
For all.
also thinking.
There's English and, French,
Dutch.
but you don't pronounce it. Okay, Dutch.
Vowels.
Yeah.
But
Is it just Germanic?
Well, French, but
Well,
then
not
it's not
Swedish.
pronounced anymore in French, but it's written, so it must have been there.
yes, originally, this borrowed from it.
What is it like in Hindi?
Well, the plural is more included in the verb form.
Do they have an S for plural?
No.
No. Then we don't believe this.
It's a minority.
But is it related in those?
Well, in English and Dutch it could be. I mean, French, I don't know. English borrowed a lot from French.
Yeah. Well, I have selected just a few topics from the thesis to talk about today, and I wanted to say something about tense and aspect. So there are different, here we have differences across the Bantu languages, quite big differences, because in Swahili, then here as an example, you have a slot here, a fixed slot for this marker, this morpheme, which carries information about tense and also some aspects. So this is the verb stem soma, to read. And if you say Nina soma kitab, then you read the book in the present. But you can just change that to another morpheme, Nili soma kitabu, nothing else changes in this phrase, and then it's past. Nita soma kitabu is future. I will read the book. So there you have a separate morpheme in a fixed slot. So several other Bantu languages have a combination of this kind of morpheme and a suffix following the verb root. And so here we can clearly see that Ndengeleko is not like Swahili. This is a very agglutinating language, and nothing happens more phonologically. So to blur these morpheme boundaries. So Ndengeleko, this is Ndengeleko. First of all, I mean, I would like to talk about time here in Ndengeleko, how they express time and aspect. And I have to first say something about a distinction they make in this language between a conjoined form and a disjoint form. So that's what we call it.
Is ni the feminine form for I?
No, we don't have a distinction between feminine.
Because you said two, and the previous slide seemed to be the masculine form or whatever it meant.
No, that's plural. I mean, first person plural, two.
Oh, it's we?
Yes, we.
Oh, okay.
So there is no distinction between feminine and masculine in this language, anywhere in the language. So no sexual gender.
Not in pronouns either?
No, actually nowhere.
Nowhere.
Completely gender neutral.
This would be the ideal language.
Yeah, we can use it in preschools.
Is this very uncommon?
No, this is across Bantu.
Okay, yeah.
So
Do
no,
they
in
have
Bantu
gender
language,
equality in this group? Do
Sorry?
they have gender
No.
equality in this group?
No.
So it doesn't
I'm
really
afraid not.
seem to correlate then?
No.
That's a good thing to know.
it does not correlate.
But
I-
there
Yeah,
must be some way to differentiate between gender, I mean, when it's needed.
yes, sure.
So how do they make it? And pronouns don't have he or she.
They would,
They would use some kind of construction.
yeah, I mean, they would add the name if necessary, or add that it's a, the word for female. Or the word for, yeah, you don't have a problem with this, do you?
It's not an issue.
It's not an issue. No, that's kind of interesting. But in any case, so I have there are two morphologically distinct forms for each. For present in Ndengeleko, you have two different, one without marking actually. So I take a bath or wash myself. Nzoga mas. But if you don't add mas, if you don't add water, you say nando yoga, which means the same, but this form here cannot be final. So something has to follow the conjoint form, mostly an object or something. But this doesn't have to be phrase final, but it can be. So here you see this is specific morpheme for that, which is present disjoint. And the other one, which is nothing, is present conjoint. And they have this distinction in a number of other tense aspects. What do you say? Groups or pairs like this, for the imperfective, for example.
Is the second one more continuous imperfective, or is not? There's not the.
Well,
It's not like I am bathing myself or washing myself.
no,
It's not like that.
the difference is not between a progressive and a neutral, for example. But this distinction occurs in a number of Bantu languages, and I've not been able yet to really get the fine-grained semantic analysis of this in Ndengeleko, but normally it's the first form, the conjoint form, puts the focus on what immediately follows the verb. Some kind of focus, or there's a close connection with the verb and what follows. Very close connection. Therefore, also these conjoint forms can be followed by question words and a negation marker, and this cannot be. So here there's no close relationship with the verb and what follows. Sounds a bit abstract. But the verb itself, or the verbal action, has some more prominence or focus or emphasis.
Is that the reason for the terms disjoint and conjoint?
Yeah, this is very confusing for people who work in Southern Africa.
Right.
Because
Well,
yeah,
it's like in Zulu, the dope talks about the long and the short forms. So the long forms are
Yeah.
the disjoint, and the short forms are conjoint, and other somehow the French won out for the terminology. Zulu was the first language I worked on. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
Well, you
has
can
nothing
see
to do
it's
with
longer.
spelling.
This disjoint form is the
This is
tense
longer,
aspect
yes.
marker. I mean, is there and it's long. The other one, there's nothing. There's no tense aspect marker, and that would be true in Zulu, that the long forms have something and the short forms don't have anything. Like this ya, you know, like the uya, but then
Yeah.
you leave out the ya if something follows a verb. It's the same principle.
So this is because in Southern African language they have conjunctive and disjunctive spelling, right?
Also,
Something completely different.
yeah,
This
Yeah,
doesn't have to do with the
that's in
spelling.
Soto and
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm-
Sorry.
What do we get these all?
Okay. Yeah, that's the y is hardened to z after nasal. So this prefix drops the vowel, and then when these two become adjacent, the y becomes z. That's why it's Nzoga. Another one of those more phonological things. So again then, so certain categories of tense aspect mood, they have two distinct morphological forms. Conjoint, when there's a close link between the verb and what follows. This can be an object, negation word, or question word. And the disjoint form when there is no such close link, and rather the verbal action itself is in focus, and therefore it can be final. And the conjoint form is never final. And here's another example. This is relevant for the Ndengeleko for present, habitual, imperfective, and past imperfective. So we have in the imperfective aga here, andika gabalua, and in this joint. So this is a suffix, right? And here the andaga comes in the slot, normal slot for tense and aspect markers. So, well, maybe it's not relevant to discuss maybe right now where these morphemes come from. But this is just to explain the conjoint disjoint distinction. So here when something follows, you have the short form, abinyaoma. He has a fever. You can also just use the verb binya on its own, nando binya, but then you have the longer form ando. Just means I am, in general, doesn't have to be fever. So in the
so if you compare to English information structure devices like I'm eating potato, I'm eating potato. Could you get something of the similar effect here by switching between these two forms? More emphasis on the action?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is, one area where it would be very interesting to do some more research, but that is potentially the issue here. So there's a focus
on the action
distinction
itself, rather.
Yeah. And as far as I know in Ndengeleko, they do not make any distinction in prosody for focused items. A lot of Bantu languages do not. As Laura knows a lot about, or does research on. So I think someone has generalized across languages in the world that they should have, every language should have a prosodology.
Yeah, most semanticists believe that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's not true.
No, it's not true.
So a lot of Bantu languages, they don't, make a distinction in prosody.
But this could be another way of doing
Yes.
it, morphologically rather
Yeah.
than
Exactly.
prosodically.
Yeah. The position, immediately following the verb, and then this morpheme. So in Ndengeleko we have the present form, which is which I think is has a lot of how do you say spectral aspects in it. It's not really a tense in a way. it's more of an aspectual form, and or it's also aspectual. Oh, sorry, I still have something more to say on disjoints. So the question word I was mentioning before, the longer form can never be followed by a question word, because a question word is inherently focused. So you can't put the focus then on the washing.
Could you, if you had a word which questioned manner, what sort of washing was it? How washing?
Yeah. But you would still have to use the conjoint form.
You still would?
Yeah, that's bui. Apula bui. Not sure because I don't have that phrase, but if I can generate from other Ndengeleko, then it should be. Okay, so in the perfective, I still have a question mark. You seem to have the same difference between a shorter and a longer form. So here you have, I have entered the house, which is the perfective marker. Here is just the E suffix. And ayingile, have a long perfective suffix. But this is not, this is also something I have to look at more, because this is not really, they are not consequent. They sometimes have the conjoint, that's why I don't want to call them conjoint forms. The shorter form here is sometimes also phrase final, which doesn't correspond with how it should be compared to the other categories.
Why do you have two noun class markers?
Okay, yeah. That's because 9, 10, what we traditionally call noun class 9 and 10, which is singular and plural, they have merged in Ndengeleko, so they are, they use the same prefix, and they also use the same agreement prefixes.
But then you have 18. I think you need to explain about the locative.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, the 18. Okay. Yeah, that's the locative prefix, which we will come back to later. That's denotes insideness. So the...
Well, why do you call them both noun class and P then, whatever P means?
Yeah, noun class prefix.
Okay, so that could be case endings as well, or case prefixes.
Well,
things as location and so on.
The locative, perhaps.
Yeah, locative. Okay.
But you can use a noun with its prefix. You can use that with a locative prefix preceding to denote. I mean, in the case of mood, to denote insideness.
So the reason they're called class prefixes, so I mean, you're right, it's an interesting problem in Bantu languages, is that this is the only class prefix that can occur before another class prefix. But they can trigger agreement like other class prefixes do, and that's why they're considered class prefixes. So they could be, say, the subject of, and then trigger subject agreement on a verb.
But you don't normally call them locative case prefixes?
No, they're put in the noun class system, I think, because they can trigger this agreement.
But that's true also for locative case when it's a suffix in other languages like Russian, etc.
Oh, okay. Well, that just shows my lack of knowledge. Yeah. That I. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the perfective is another aspect then. So we have present and the perfective in Ndengeleko. And as for tense, Ndengeleko doesn't seem to have a specific. No, in this morpheme slot I was showing for Swahili preceding the verb stem, they don't have. Well, I'll come back to later that this is not in the same slot as that would be. So the present form or the plain form of the verb with with this prefix a gives future, twatenda, and I have to compare this straight away with the past. The same a, okay, I didn't change, so this shouldn't be past, but the same a together with a perfective form of the verb gives the past meaning. So that's why I think this a, which can actually also be e, is a kind of a marker of distance in time in some way, and it has to combine with the right verb form to mean future or past. So this is the present in combination with this marker. We will not work tomorrow. Attenda qua kas.
Can you pronounce the omega once more?
Twatenda
Oh,
qua. Qua.
The omega means voiceless O or what?
No, it's a u. I mean, it's not a. They have two high back vowels and two high front vowels in Ndengeleko. So you have u and you have o, which is not, it's not o, but it's in between o and u. But at the end of the word, of course, it sounds like just voiceless or something.
That didn't sound, I didn't hear it at all. Say it once more.
Well, I'm not a Ndengeleko speaker, but kwaku.
Oh, now you said it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the, we call them second degree high vowels. They are very close to the highest vowel, but they are distinct. And then perfected in combination with the same gives the past. So you have to combine the right verb stem with this morpheme to get the past. So it's a very different from the one we saw in Swahili. And then in Bantu languages we talk a lot about slots, because as we saw in the beginning, the different morphemes of the verb, they follow each other in a fixed manner. And this te here, which precedes the verb stem, is falls in the tense aspect slot, the slot which is, what do I say, which is reserved, so to speak, for the tense aspect. But this distal, or whatever marker, I don't really know what to call it, it precedes, so it's in the, what normally calls the post-initial slots in this terminology of Bantu languages, not in the tense aspect slot. So this is a bit unusual maybe, and why I think I can say that Ndengeleko is quite, it's quite aspectual in its in the way the tense aspect mood system is built, is formed. This is the slot system, just to show you this. The same. No, that's not the same. That's the same phrase we had in the beginning. He bit him, or the dog bit him. So these are the. This is slot system. It's not very important here. We don't talk about it. But the system of tense aspect mood categories in Ndengeleko then is, if you try to put it on a time scale, that's not. That's very difficult, because you have the present form, which I gave before. There's a conjunct and there's a disjoint form, a short and a long form. It combines with this a or e for a future. Then there's also another future with an auxiliary, which is used much more and which is newer according to some speakers. And then this perfective and also the completive, they can combine with that a or e, and then that's past. So then we have the imperfective in the conjoint and a disjoint form, and there's a past also imperfective, where these aga is age and andaga is andage. And there's also habitual in a conjoint and a disjoint. And I would have to do more research to really find out what the differences are between all these different categories, but it's not really time. Because a lot of why I'm talking about this is that a lot of other Bantu languages have distinct forms for past and future. They sometimes have 3 pasts and 3 futures. Quite common. One past for earlier this day, one for yesterday, and one for even further back. And Ndengeleko doesn't have anything of that. What does Haya have? Do you have past distinctions?
Three.
Yeah,
Three future.
so he speaks one of those languages. And a lot of, and there's no such thing in Ndengeleko. They only use adverbs for saying it was last week or it was last year. Or it was.
But in this language, then, there's no clear way of distinguishing aspect and tense. No time and completion of action. They go together.
Yes, yeah, I think you could maybe put it that way. So I think the A morpheme is some kind of marker of distance, which combines with other morphemes to give distance in time, and if it combines with a perfective, then it's past. And if it combines with the present, then it's future. So this is the system. I haven't been able to draw any timeline. Oh, any more questions around that? Then I would like to say this was related to time. I want to say something also about space. Because that's the title I gave to the
Okay, but so the clear conclusion in a sense here is that time is not clearly distinguished in this language.
Yeah, that's a strong statement, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
I haven't.
It's good to make strong statements. Yeah, it's good to make strong statements.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I should make stronger statements. But before making such a statement, I mean, I have found, I think, all the different categories. It's not that I've missed a category, but I still think I should do more research into this before I could clearly say.
Yeah, but what you've said points to, distance plus completion.
Yes.
It's fast.
Yes. And so everything points to an aspectual system and not a system with tense.
Can I ask
Yes.
a strange question?
No, no, they're not strange, don't worry. Just keep asking.
Is there any generally accepted principle for how to describe time in a language, of a language? Or how do you go about it? Do you use a sort of an, pure inductive method, or how do you can you say that, because you indicated that, oh, I need to know more, or I have to do more research on that. How do you know when you have finally covered everything?
Well, you will probably never cover everything, I guess, but,
Yeah, but
there would need to be some more semantic analysis, so that you in a more structured way look at where exactly semantically and pragmatically can you use all the different categories of tense, aspect, mood, and
so there
this would
is
take quite a lot
also
more extensive.
Maybe I should answer that question.
Yeah, that's it.
There is a temporal logic that's deductive, top down, not
Okay, yeah.
inductive, okay? And it's been around for 50 years,
Okay.
okay? And its source of inspiration is Indo-European languages, mostly the non-aspect parts from the beginning, so the temporal parts. And they like theirs is, the language you have has 3 levels, so you go to immediate past, and time before past. That's a Reichenbach's classical system. And that book was appeared in the 1950s. And then that's been enriched by a logical aspect. So the two things that people who discuss semantics usually focus on are time and aspect. Aspect means if an action is ongoing or completed, etc. And some languages have a very rich aspectual system. One language close to us is Russian, where every verb comes in two versions. Okay. But also the Romance languages, French, Spanish, Italian, they all have versions of this. So it's, you know, it's close by, but in the Indo-European languages we usually have two ways of doing it. And what I was trying to suggest is maybe in this language they didn't have two ways, but more like one way, and it was mainly aspectual. But then there is also an inductive, empirical part of this, because most of the semantic analysis has been inspired by Indo-European languages, and people have thought deeply and for a long time about that, but they have not thought as much about non-Indo-European languages. So there could be new ways of structuring time that perhaps were not really present in the old semantic analysis. And for that you need more data to see how it's being used and so on. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, something else on Ndengeleko is we'll turn to the demonstratives. It's another area where, well, actually, because I'm mainly working phonologically and morphologically, I've not touched that much on semantics, so I'm actually presenting things now that I have questions on, and that's why I keep saying I need to do more research. But because I was thinking, well, when you like to think about semantics and cognition and things like that, and I should come up with these kind of topics today. So I'm a bit more sure about the phonological analysis than others. But there are 5 different demonstratives. So 2 proximal, 2 distal, and 1 which is referential, talking about something that is already mentioned. So you have mundo uno, this person in this noun in class 1, person. And lutelaulo is this twig in class 11. Saakulo means that pot. In fact, this is part of a longer phrase, so never mind the position of the demonstrative as for now. And then kuyimba kolyo, that's singing. Kuyimba is a noun of class 15, which is an infinitive, so it's a verbal noun. But you can also say that's singing. And ugomunda, that field.
But is there a semantic difference in, for example, closeness if we look at the proximal?
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there's no difference between those 2 in closeness, and no difference between those last 2 in, those other 2 in how distant. So here I was looking for other distinctions, and actually what I wanted to talk about today are the locative demonstratives. So these are all the demonstratives for all the noun classes. These are this noun class system of Ndengeleko you can see here. And these last 3 are locative, which means that 5 times 3, 15 demonstratives denote place, and are well, translated then in English with here and there, all 15. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to come back to here, or talk about here. So these are locative demonstratives then, cut them out. They are used adnominally with a noun or as on their own, adverbially also. And in general, in Bantu languages, this is the how they are used. So this is not only in Ndengeleko, but this class 16 often denotes a specific location, while 17 ku is either more remote or general location, around or at something. And mu, number 18, is location inside. So here inside or there inside. Pamoto means on the fire. Moto is a noun class 3 noun meaning fire, and then you can add pa to mean on the fire. I put the pot on the fire. Pamoto. So Kului. Louis is a class 11 noun meaning river. And Kului is at the river, around the river, and that's for them the refugee region, because they live around this very large river. And Mulitanda is in the lake. Litanda is class 5 now, with the prefix mu, and then it comes inside the water, in the lake.
They freely interchangeable.
Papumu or
Palui, Molui, Palitanda, Mulitanda, Pulitanda.
oh, they would have different meanings, right?
Yeah, but they're freely.
Yes, you can use them. Yeah.
So what would Mului mean? Around the lake?
In Mului, in the river.
No, Kulitanda, sorry.
Kulitanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be around the lake or something?
Yes, I mean the whole area
Yeah.
where the lake is, I think. But this is really something which is also for Swahili, for example. Swahili only has 9 of these, but still, yeah, it's quite tricky for a second language learner to get a hang on this. This is my biggest issue, I think, in my Swahili speaking. You know.
So it sort of takes, if we look at any European languages, we have prepositions, adverbs, and demonstratives that could all contribute this kind of meaning. And you're sort of cutting across here.
It's true.
When you're saying here inside, you're using
Yeah.
adverb plus preposition.
Right. Yeah, that's
So-
true. Yeah. I'll give some examples. And this is how I've tried to, try to entangle them a bit. Like, for example, we have Panu Panu, Panu Kulima. This place is good for farming. Panu Panu, this place, where we are standing now. So you have to be standing there, this spot. This is a proximal demonstrative, and it's used in exophoric way, not anaphoric but exophoric, and that means that you are pointing to something, or you're actually this book, that. You don't have to be able maybe to see this, but it's an exophoric use. You're not referring to something that you said before, but you're referring to something here and now. And but the same Pansengua apa can also be used, which is another kind of demonstrative, but it's also proximal, and it can also be used exophorically. So I'll get it to an overview later where we can see where we might have some differences.
Eva-Maria, I mean, and here are they interchangeable? Could you have used apa in the first sentence and pano in the second one?
In all of the cases where I've asked for that kind of interchangeability, then yes. But there must be some. I think there's some finer distinctions. But I have a lot of phrases where I've asked for both, and where I have written slash pano slash papa. So and then with the general location in class 17, this example here on top, this is the referential one which ends in o, and this is a kind of recognitional use. You're referring to something that everyone knows. He went to the hills over there, Kumatumbi. There's quite larger hills, and there's only one area with such hills in that area, in the refugee region, and that's where the Matumbi people live. So without even mentioning it before, you know that when you say those hills, you mean that area. Every time they went to the hills over there. So,
Be the same as in Puko. So
yeah. Yeah, that would be the equivalent. Probably. And this is also a general location, but another one of the distal demonstrative hua. These are often used in this kind of relative phrases, like the place where I grew up, hua kung nibeliko economically. And in other relative phrases in Ndengeleko, the different forms of this a demonstrative is used in this kind of relative constructions. And this is the class 16 referential, where it's used anaphorically to talk about something that we were talking about, that road. Uende mpaka apo pandela. But then here, you also have the pa, the locative marker on the noun, path, or small road. And Kori also, this is a story. And this is another distal demonstrative which ends in lio, palio, yuamundu, tumweni palio, kilungusakias. So here it's used adverbially, or like we see over there, but I mean we just met, but you're talking about a specific location, And they are there inside is babi murio. But that would be, when you are standing, or you are somewhere in the vicinity of this, and you point to the house or something. So when I was trying to make some generalizations about the use, then you have the precise location, the general location, the insideness. I have noticed that of these two proximal demonstrative series, then they can both be used in an exophoric way. Like I said, they are interchangeable with for if I want to say this book, then I have two ways of saying that, and also this place. But then I've noticed that only this one is used when, this one is used abnominally together with a noun in my data, and not as an adverbial on its own. So there is some distinction between these two. And also, then these two distal ones, here you see the same. I don't have exophoric examples of this, that you are like pointing or you are in that situation, but they're all anaphoric, and they are used in these relative clauses. And this is the one used adverbially when you want to say there, over there. And also, together with a noun, but then in an exophoric use. So this is really, there's some difference between if you use the locative demonstrative in that situation, or if you refer to something that you already talked about. Also, they follow the noun in this exophoric use and precede in the anaphoric use, with a few exceptions. Which leads me to conclude that there are pragmatic distinctions, so how these demonstratives are used in discourse, which make them need 15 little words for this.
But the final part of those words, if you go vertically, let's say the last column, it seems to be you.
Yes, yeah, that's the root.
So, okay, why don't you just take that morpheme and tell us what it means?
Yeah. Well, that morpheme would have to make some abbreviations like distal.
But it seems to be added to pa, ku, and mu.
Yes, sure. I didn't talk about the that much about the formation of the. These are the prefixes of the noun classes.
Yeah, right.
So this all you, ba, bu, i is added to you, ba, you, bu, you.
Right. So there must be some pragmatic semantic meaning to that morpheme probably.
Well, yes, which I'm looking for what that exactly is.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't have a rough approximation.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's distal. It has to do with some distance away,
Yeah.
and but pragmatically, it's used mostly exophorically and adverbially, and not anaphoric that much, because that's what you use this for.
Well, that sort of sounds like being a demonstrative.
Yeah.
So it's used deictically to point out things. Is that
Yes. Yeah. In the space around.
right?
So I don't know what I should call it exactly, but.
Maybe it's a deictic demonstrative somehow. I don't know. I haven't looked at this letter.
And what did you mean by relative use for the two distal ones? You said they have relative use. What did you?
For this one, this series here is used preceding the, like in the place where or.
Oh, okay. So relative clause. That's what.
Yes.
Introducing a relative clause.
Yeah. Yeah, and this. So not all of them are used in that way. So I think that's maybe also.
Does the relative clause come before the noun in this language?
No.
No, after.
Yeah.
Like English and Swedish.
Yeah. After. So this is a then, and the prefix plus a. This is the prefix plus no. But these two are formed in another way, because here you have this what we call concord here, you, and then it's preceded by a vowel which has the same quality as the vowel in concord. And this is how this series is built up. And then if you change that last vowel to o, then you get the referential.
And it's a series of let's use as a kind of relative pronoun. Is it exophoric or anaphoric?
This one?
Yeah. Did you say it was on the later slide?
Yeah, it's anaphoric. Anaphoric, yes. So I don't have any exophoric examples, so that's demonstrative.
Well, relative phrases are difficult to get exophorically.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not only used in a relative clause, it's also used in anaphoric.
Well, in other Bantu languages, the relative marker would also be a demonstrative, but it would be one that means something like this very one, which is kind of exophoric. I think that's why I asked.
Okay, so you mean like you say, this man, this very one.
Well, it'd be
Like
like man, this very one, but
so you would do.
this very one would be the equivalent of the relative pronoun in English.
Yeah, so you could have a kind of deictic part of it.
Yeah. And I think this is how these are also used as relative pronouns, and that's why I asked what they generally meant. Yeah, if they're more anaphoric or exophoric, but they're more anaphoric in their other uses.
Yeah. That's true. I don't have that. Them in any exoteric example. And they always, maybe not exactly always, but almost always they precede the noun. That pa, moi.
Oh, okay, except when they're used as relative pronouns.
No, also then,
No?
Really?
I mean, if you say qua cum Ndengeleko, place where I was born.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, I was looking for the relative pronoun in that sentence. So it would be qua then, that you would say is the equivalent of the relative.
Yeah, they don't have, there's no other relative pronoun.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I was looking for the relative marker in that sentence.
And I also have these kind of examples with other noun classes, and then it's always that, the a demonstrative, which is used for those kind of instructions.
What does kundu mean?
Place
So where place I
was born.
is belike born.
Belike, to be born.
Yeah, okay. So where place I'm born.
Yeah, in just the.
So that means you actually do have the relative before the noun rather than
Yeah,
after.
yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, you mean the, that's demonstrative or
Yeah.
relative?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were mentioning.
Yeah, sometimes in some languages they have the whole clause before. So.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
Who sits on the chair, man?
Aha. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, like probably Japanese. I mean,
Yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
Well, then that's tricky, and as I said, in Bantu languages in general, you have a lot of these, a lot of demonstratives and a lot of demonstratives that denote location, and often they also denote time. They can denote time. You can refer to time by using this deictics as well.
But that's common in most languages, that you can go from space to time,
Yeah, sure.
rather than the other way around. It seems that space somehow is more basic than time.
Yeah, well, it's more concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something else that I wanted to talk about is the animacy, and this is an aspect of the of agreement. So we're going to the noun class system, and if you know anything about Bantu languages, then it's that they are divided in a lot. The nouns are divided into classes.
What's the top number of classes in any Bantu language? 25?
No, not that
Well,
many. I
they
think-
count.
I don't think it's that many. I think it's more like 20.
20?
But I mean, 20 is quite a lot. But
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and some of them are singular and some are plural.
And the lowest number of classes?
I
2,
don't know,
3?
what did you say? I'm sorry.
Well-
No, 2 or 3 would be far too few, right? Except in the Creolized. I mean, there are some Creolized Bantu languages where there might be 2 or 3, but that would be a sign of a Creolized Bantu language.
The Swahili is sort of creolized, isn't it?
No, not compared. I'm talking about things like
It's not
Lingala.
less,
Or,
but not that nice.
But how many does Swahili have?
Same line as
Oh, this is not an easy overview to see this. I have,
the locatives.
10?
No, it's something like 14, I think.
Oh, is it?
14. Because they don't miss the locatives. The rest are there.
Right, right.
so you will count the locatives as noun classes in Swahili?
Ku, mu, pa, pahala, but then
Yeah, but they still have the locative agreement.
it's cool.
They don't have that prefix, no.
Mu. Yeah, they need.
They have a suffix in Swahili. There's one suffix for all the locative nouns. in Swahili, but anyways, sorry, this was partly in Swedish because I took it from somewhere. So you have class 1 is mo, with a plural in class 2, ba. Most of the time, this is the general pattern, but I will soon show you another overview where you can see that it's more flexible than this. So nwawa, this is underlying is mu, luawa. But as I said, we have a lot of morphophonological processes in this language, so it becomes nwawa. And plural is with a, because you have ba or a, so it's aluawa, women. And this is actually also a mu prefix. Mu kumbolu is nkumbolu.
What is Bavian? What is Bavian?
What is, sorry?
What does that word mean, Bavian?
Oh, baboon, sorry.
Oh, okay.
But why are 1 and 3 distinct? 1 and 3, sorry, if they're both mu? Is it because the plurals are different?
The plurals are different, they trigger different agreements, and they are semantically different as well. So
is it a homonym then, mu?
Yeah, homomorph.
Homomorph, yeah. So it can mean 2 radically different things, mu.
Yes. I mean, this, I don't know if the prefix itself carries that much meaning in this word. But it's the, they have different kinds of agreements, so...
So it's actually not the morpheme itself then? It's the, you have to look at the agreements
Yes.
that it triggers.
Yeah.
Because I noticed 18 is also mu.
Yes, it's also mu. Then you have class 5 and 6, lipinga, mapinga, means egg. You have 7 and 8 in Ndengeleko, kiimbui and iimbui, hyena. And then 9 and 10, they are not distinguished semantically. They have, they can have singular or plural reference, and also the agreement is the same. So this is either Bogoso is either one or several deaf people. But semantically, 10 can be the plural of class 11 in a very regular way, and then it always has plural reference. Sorry, this was not the right example for this, because this is loquili with a plural in 8, equili. But there are other examples where class 11 noun has this stands for homoorganic nasal with a nasal prefix, and then they have the same prefix as other 9, 10 nouns, but the meaning is always plural.
And for failed?
Sorry?
Word for failed?
The word for
Failed.
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 Failed kuni, you mean?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah, that's Mbugusu with the highest U. Actually, that's small kuni. It's called Mbugusu in class 9, 10. Yeah, that's a minimal pair with deaf person. It's very strange. How come you asked for that one?
No, it's between 11 10.
Aha, okay. Yeah, but you have Lutondwa, for example, is star. Ndondwa is stars. And it's 11-10 pairing. And there are many such pairs. And then you have class 12, ka, derives smallness. This is diminutive. Kasenzema. A normal mosquito would be Nzenzema in class 9, 10. And actually class 5 can derive bigness or be augmentative. So you can also say Yisenzema, which is a huge mosquito. And the plural of 12 is mostly 8, Yisenzema. And then, so that doesn't add any class, these two. And then you have 14. That also doesn't add any plural because it makes use of class 6 as a plural. And then you have the verbal nouns, the infinitives, which also trigger agreements. And then you have Pandu, Konani, Masi, which you can place in these locative classes. But that was
So
just
it's a mixture of these things. I mean, here you have plural endings, locative endings. It's not as though, I mean, it's very different from a gender system in Indo-European countries.
yeah.
I mean, or in languages. I mean, here we would normally think if you have something in masculine gender, then both plural and singular are going to be the same gender. Not going to change, right? But here, noun classes, then these class markers are of very different type. Some are singular, some are plural, some are locative, some are...
Yeah, and in Ndengeleko, what I would
Yeah,
like...
no, it's true, yeah, that they have a bundle of features, yeah.
Yeah,
But that would lead one to predict that some of these are combinable.
yeah, we're coming to the combinations.
Yeah, and that could be predicted on semantic grounds, I think. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, you have
We
the
should
Bantu
have-
classes are generally considered in pairs, so a singular class is connected with a plural class in a regular way, mostly. But in Ndengeleko, we have quite a system where the singular classes can combine with several plurals. And I'm going to show an overview of that. And also, there are animacy considerations in the system of agreement. And then nouns which are derived in a certain class, like the diminutives or augmentatives that I was talking about, they stick to their class. They are not affected by this adverbial distinction. But this is a bit confusing because I have to say something else first. So these are the noun classes again, but here I put the singulars on that side, and then the infinitive and the locatives. But they don't pair with any plural. These are the plurals available in Ndengeleko, so they are fewer than the singulars, right? And the regular pairings that we were talking about just now, they are given here with these kind of unbroken lines. Mu ba, mu mi here, and then li ma, ki, i. And this is the same form in singular and plural. And then these should actually also be unbroken because this is quite regular. Ka, i. Because it's so diagonal, then it looks like it's not, like it's dotted.
Group 10. 10.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. 11:10 is also regular, and actually, well, 14:6 is not that regular. It's, because these do not always have to have a plural. They only sometimes have a plural because they are mostly mass and abstract nouns in 14. So, but as you can see here, class 6 can be the plural in Ndengeleko of almost any noun. And 4 is also used for a lot of different singulars, together with a lot of different singulars. So the only untouchable classes are 1 and 2. Class 1 can never take another plural than class 2. And
Actually, you don't have more plurals in this language than we do in Swedish.
no, but the Swedish
You have more in
plurals,
Swedish.
the Swedish plurals are all selected on phonological grounds.
No,
No?
no. It's hard to say what they're selected.
Aha, okay. So
That's
that,
brutal.
okay.
We also have noun classes. I mean, since we have
We also have that.
strange gender, I mean,
Mm.
you know, these neutral and real genders, what are they? Neutral, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And of course we have OR, ER,
Mhm.
M, E,
Yeah.
we have lots of endings, right?
Mhm.
For plural.
We could try to make a drawing like this and see
Yeah.
how close we'd get.
It has been done.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And you get, actually there are more for Swedish.
Mhm. More combinations possible.
More plural endings.
Okay, yeah.
Not more basic noun classes, I don't think, but there are,
Mm.
since we really only have 2 basic instances. E and an ET.
Did
Yeah.
you have the class 13 before? Was it bit away? Or like that it is?
Oh, 13, yes.
Did you have it to bit away?
Yeah, a lot of other Bantu languages have 13.
Yeah.
So these numbers are used for cross-linguistic comparison.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I haven't adapted the numbers to Ndengeleko, but I keep the numbers as they are used in other Bantu languages.
Phonologically, are they the same to some extent across Bantu languages? So if you go to number 1, which is, was it M, mu?
Mu.
Mu. If I go to Zulu, would I get number 1 as mu too?
Well, it's umu, because they're
Yeah.
prefixes.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
umu and aba.
Yeah.
So there is some similarity.
There is a
That's
great
very
deal
big
of similarity.
Yeah, they're almost, this is where you can really see, I mean, you can really detect the Bantu language very easily, because these things have not changed that much over the years. So this is a very, I mean, these noun classes that you see here, they resemble the reconstructed Proto-Bantu language very much. Yeah. Very much, in fact. So it's quite, they have a lot of, I mean, 5 was D, probably Ndengeleko was D. Differences are very small. And Ndengeleko does not have a pre-prefix like Zulu, like you say, umu.
Yeah, umuntu.
The dotted line.
Yeah.
Lines, they say, all not accepted by all speakers.
Yes.
Would that be attributable to some kind of language change, maybe in terms of, maybe they are going towards dialects and so on?
Well, yeah, that's what I think, that there is some change on the way. So for certain speakers, they would not accept, if you have a noun in lu in class 11, they wouldn't give a class 6 plural for this noun. While some other speakers will happily give a class 6 plural and a class 4 plural.
It would be interesting to see what type of people
Yes.
agree to what type of...
Yeah, and it's not age.
Is it dialect?
It's not
Could it be
Yeah, but the thing is, that region, as I said, it's multilingual and movable, and people don't really stay. They don't live where they were born, and they don't live where they grew up, and it's yeah, it could be sociolects or dialects or other kinds of differences.
Does Swahili have the same prefixes?
Yes, it's the same, except...
Okay, so there could be influence from Swahili influencing them in the answer?
Yeah, but according to the textbooks of Swahili, you don't have this flexibility. And especially not with me, you would never use me in the class 4.
Another difference between Swahili, because Swahili is taught in school, so it's regulated.
Yeah.
Informally, there could be some variations, but when it comes to standard,
Yeah.
it is standardized and it's formalized. You can't say this. So,
Yeah.
but this, because it's free,
There's actually an institute, I mean, watching over the
everyone can
language.
pick up anything from any other language without bringing it in.
And that's very natural for people to do
Yeah.
all the time, to mix languages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, this is actual language in use. There's no prescription, I mean, in my analysis, so that's why I think we might have so many more than if you compare to other Bantu languages as shown in some comparative work. About the animacy, this is an example from another Bantu language, Kabul. Here you have class 5, Dibwa is a dog. A good dog eats, or the good dog eats, is Dibwa, Diswan, Dikuja. So you have D, D, D. That's the alliterative agreement exemplified. But in Ndengeleko, because this is a dog, even if it is in class 5 and has a class 5 prefix, it cannot take agreement of class 5. So in Ndengeleko, a Kikumbogo, which is a very large crocodile. But it's not an augmentative, it just means large crocodile, it's a certain kind of crocodile. lingua, you have to have the noun class 1 subject marker, which is the same as used for humans and all other animals. So for animals, you have the noun itself is in class 7, but it takes the meaning of class 1 and 2. But if you use these derived classes like 5, where you can derive an augmentative, like Uliana is a big child, then you have to stick to the class 5 agreement, even if this is a human. Liana Liake Kuli. And the noun for child is Moana, class 1. But Liana is derived. So these nouns are non-affected, and there's a strong semantic motivation for moving these nouns to, for example, class 12, which is diminutive, and class 5, which is augmentative. In class 12, you want to show the littleness of something, and therefore the agreement stays with the noun class. And with the nouns which belong inherently to a noun class and are not derived, then the semantic content of the noun itself is the basis for agreement, and then you have to have animacy agreement, and you turn to 1 and 2 for all animate nouns. And so for these examples, you also see that the agreement is very important in the meaning of Ndengeleko. So maybe it's not enough to say just Liana. You have to say Liake Nkolo, and you can't say Liana Wake Nkolo. I mean, you can't use class 1 agreement throughout, because you need to show that this is a derived noun. So these
what happens if you say Moana Muake Mikolo? Mukolo.
Yeah. Nkolo.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
What would that mean?
her big child, but it's not extremely big, and it's not derogatory also. This is kind of derogatory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So this is more or less of an insult. And what you just said is not an insult. It's just a big child, maybe healthy. So I'm finished. This is just also some Ndengeleko. This means, how are you? So when you go there and people ask, okay, Kenya, then you should answer, oops.
I is the.
The two are different.
Yeah? Okay, Kenya?
No. The response, I realized they are tonally different. The first pronunciation, the second one.
Or the second time he says it, you mean?
No, you just listen the final.
Yeah.
The final, the last one is falling. The first one is like rising.
But they should.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sure. That's what he always does when he says.
Question, right? So it should be like that.
No, the other response.
Yeah.
The response.
But
The answer.
It's the answer.
Yes, the answer,
Yeah.
which differs. The first one and the second one.
But I think the speaker more often does that,
spatial.
because I'm going to say it one more time.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I always make him pronounce things twice. Yeah. That's always a problem. I don't know how to do that, you know.
No, unless
If I don't put it twice,
you
then
can't control it.
yeah. So thank you.
Okay, but you could do that because you're not sure if the other person hears what you said. So you're questioning, did you get it?
Is he? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I had for you today. Any questions? Grammar, anyone?
So how come that you did all this? So what is the reason behind your
Can we go back to
interest?
the something funny?
What?
The classes, non-classic.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if this is something
The other one.
No, that one, those lines. With the exception of 12, this is something interesting. Just caught my eyes. With the exception of car, if you look mu, it's one line. 1A, 2, they get either the same or increasing with the exception of 12.
Increasing
1,
the number
2, 2, 3, 3,
or the number of lines, you mean?
4. Yes. And then if you go there, you start with the 6, and then you increase upwards and decrease upwards and decrease downwards. Could that have any significance semantically in terms of?
Well, are the
they're quite symmetrical, except with the car.
Are the higher numbered noun classes less stable than the? I mean, the groupings, like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Are they? I don't know. In Bantu language, maybe they are more stable, and then, like, I mean, Lu and yeah, like
the,
11.
The car could easily drop out.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry, you also had a question. I didn't answer that yet. Yeah. Well, as a linguist, I guess you can work with any language. And as an Africanist, maybe you choose one in Africa. and then, I mean, I was interested in working with a language that hadn't been written before, a minority language, and that is something that attracted me. And then we have a long cooperation with Tanzania, with their university. So.
And there's still several that haven't been touched on.
Yes, so sure.
Virgin lands.
You can just continue, and also if you then continue with the languages which were described in 1906, then you can still go on for several more lifetimes.
So do you have an estimate on how much untouched languages there are which are known to exist? Still to be studied.
Yeah, I think there are such a number, because people have been traveling around and they have listed the languages. They have a few examples. I mean, they did that already a long time ago. And sure, there are actually still languages claimed to be actually found, but that's not in East Africa, that's in Nigeria and so on. But where there are so many different languages. But otherwise, I think we have a fairly good idea of which languages there are.
But did you say 150 languages in Tanzania, or how?
Yeah, depending on how you count, of course, the language and dialect, but around that one.
Yeah, and how many of those have not been described?
We've got not less than 20.
20 still left?
Yes, more than that.
More than
less than, yeah.
The thing is, when you describe them, then you get an idea of what are exactly because in the list of languages, you also have Kiru-Fiji, which I claim here is just Ndengeleko. There's no Kiru-Fiji. So then, but on the other hand, other languages might be added when you realize, like, oh, these are too different. When you start really working on them, you would like to have two descriptions instead of one.
And if the description differs from one language to another, some languages have just been listed. Yeah. Some we may have, maybe there is a Bible or there is a book of hymns and so on. But then the serious linguistic description, they're limited.
Yeah.
And many.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 50.
And if you have a grammar which is reasonable from the 50s or 40s, then somehow you still need to redo that. So if you add those languages, then you have more work to do.
So we should make a project of self-description. Have you heard about our ideas on this point?
So what?
Self-description. We provide people in the community with mobile phones or smartphones. Okay. They record themselves, they send in pictures, videos, etc. And we pick them up and we organize a database on the internet.
Sure.
This is what we're doing in Nepal.
Yeah, but then, I mean, if you have such morphophonological processes like here, how do you get all these
You don't get
people?
The speakers themselves unless you train linguists, as linguists. Otherwise,
because they need to write all the morphemes and in a uniform way.
What you provide in this way is a data source you know, database, data source. For example, you're claiming that this language is endangered. There are no young speakers. But that's okay, so in 20, 25 years maybe it's really out. Who knows? But if you had this self-documentation process, it would still be there.
Yeah.
You know, and you could revive it if there was interest in that and stuff like that. And so I think it's worthwhile, even though we might not at this point be able to describe it in a sophisticated way linguistically, but there will be data, and you can always start on training people who are interested in doing the description. Usually people who speak the language themselves are more interested in.
But it's good if you can have a gatekeeper like you have for the Horn project, like someone who looks, who is more trained than the others. Maybe,
Yes.
Because otherwise, there are some risks of things becoming.
But you can create such gatekeepers, because this is a way of having a career.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start to become a spokesman for your language, for your group, that gives you a little status, and then you yourself become more interested in describing, understanding the language.
Yeah.
So
very interesting ideas, I think.
But you have been, where have you been sitting here in Gothenburg and doing this morphophonological analysis, or were you sitting in the sun in Tanzania?
No, I never sit in the sun in Tanzania. Under the mango tree.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I've been doing my interviews and my reporting in Tanzania, and partly the analysis, because it's always very good if you can manage to do some analysis in the field. Because the problem is when you come home and start analyzing, then you why didn't I ask that? I missed that. And then, then you prepare your questions for the next time and you go back. But it's difficult. I mean, I think it would have been good to sit there and be there most of the time. Yeah. If possible, practically that would be better. So, although it's also nice to have access to fast internet and good libraries and so on when you do the analysis, but
So what do you plan to go on with? Is more of the same language, or starting another one, or
starting a new language? A new project. No, I'm thinking of doing something more comparative next, because doing a monolingual thesis, then I think it's a wise thing to maybe do something more comparative, some more typological work. But I would like to continue with Bantu languages, because when you build up that knowledge, then you can use it for that language group, and there's lots of work to be done, so it's not difficult to think of a lot of different projects. But then, of course, eventually I would like to continue with Ndengeleko, because as you've noticed, I'm really not done. Like you can only do so much in the time of a PhD, and then it would be very nice. There are some very nice topics that I would like to continue with.
Has anyone that worked on gestures in Tanzania?
He's works on sign language. You're
Yes,
talking
sign
to.
You worked on sign language. But what about hearing gestures?
I'm not sure.
Like,
Non-verbal.
non-verbal communication.
So
In these languages, I mean, the local languages, right?
I notice you're sitting like this now, so it's natural for you to use gestures.
Yeah, some are maybe pan-Tanzanian, or maybe some are language specific. I don't know.
We've done a lot of work on gestures in this department, so we're interested in that.
Yeah.
Are they specific to each community? Are they
To some extent,
universal?
yes. To some extent, no.
Are they universal? They appear.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example that Charles Darwin claimed was universal, namely the head movement for yes and no. Okay, so Charles Darwin thought that this was a universal for yes and this was a universal for no. That turns out to be wrong. So if you, from Bulgaria up to Pakistan, this is very common for no. They don't use this. Okay, and in India, this is common for yes. And Nepal too. So, so even things you might think are very good candidates for being universals turn out not to be universal. So we don't...
That's where research comes in, the necessity for research.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the world around you think this represents the entire world.
No, so a nice project in Tanzania, under some shady trees.
We have this project on the languages of Tanzania, but unfortunately the languages are so many that we can't manage to handle them during our lifetime. We'll perish before we do even 20%.
Yeah.
So we need more linguists to go to Tanzania.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all welcome.
For non-verbal communication.
No,
Everything.
I agree. I think it should be everything. So
Yeah,
it should be like,
yes.
capturing parts of the culture too, so you can understand the function of it.
And many people are not interested, including linguists, are not interested because it's painstaking, takes time to come up with these conclusions. Sometimes you sit down for a year and then what you come up with, sometimes you don't have real answers. Except maybe for just documenting, taking something as is and then put down for other people to analyze the data and so on. When it comes to analyze and then say something, what is what and what is not what, people are interested in quick money.
Maybe it's better to do some documentation in spite of that than, have the data there in case, because it is long, it takes a long time to do this work, so well, I think, thank you very much for coming here to tell us about this, and for some people who are not so used to linguistics, I think this was, now you know a little what linguists sometimes do. So, thank you very much.